Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Digital to Dice podcast. I am Dave.
I'm Ron.
And Ron, episode 106, I think it is.
106.
Wow, we're getting up there.
if that's your temperature, it's too hot.
Yes, it is. If that's the temperature outside, it's too hot, too.
That's true. So did you enjoy your trip to Ontario to help Aunt Becky?
Yeah, I was at the Aunt Becky rally. I was.
At the Aunt Becky rally.
She's doing okay. But anyway, yeah, just a busy week there. And so Ron took over last week, did a great job with 105 going solo last week. This week, we're back here. We're talking substitutions.
Mass confusion.
Yeah, substitution, mass confusion, the old Cars song. How do you handle substitutions? It's something that comes up. Everybody does a little different. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in today's show. What else is going on with you, Ron? How's the weather up there?
If it was spring, we'd be making maple syrup by the ton because it's 40 at night and 75 during the day.
This is the time you wake up with a sweater on, and by noon you got shorts on, and then at the end of the night you got the hoodie back on. It's that type of weather.
From 20 to 60, I'm seeing a lot of hoodies and shorts.
Yeah, we had a couple guys with hoodies on at the rink last night, so it's getting to be that time of year.
The leaves haven't started to change yet. The more rural parts of Vermont, it's starting to. But once it starts to go, it's the prettiest time of the year.
Yeah, we have a couple of spots down where we are that it's absolutely gorgeous when everything turns and it just gets all fall-y and colorful, and it is kind of neat.
Fall-y, there you go.
And the pumpkin. Everything has been out.
Oh, well.
The pumpkin coffee, the pumpkin beer, the pumpkin toilet paper. It's like it's out everywhere.
Started the middle of August here when Duncan started to put that stuff out. Sarah goes today to the coffee shop we go to, and there's a sign on the sandwich board, pumpkin spice latte. Okay, so that's what you want? Yes. Okay, fine. I order my coffee and my apple muffin, and Sarah goes, pumpkin spice latte, please. Small or large? Oh, large!
Oh, no.
And I just start laughing hysterically because it's so funny. She falls right into it. So, yes.
Some people like it. It comes around once a year, it's not terrible, but it's I don't get it.
We replace pumpkin with peppermint mocha everything, on Halloween. There's nothing for Thanksgiving, nothing for my holiday. But we go right from pumpkin in the middle of August to Christmas on November 1st, and please get off my lawn.
Still, nothing replaces a shamrock shake, though. It really doesn't.
I had a cousin who worked at McDonald's, and their normal it was vanilla chocolate strawberry, I think is what they had for shakes, except for eggnog and the shamrock shakes. Mm-hmm. And she must have been working there on March 18th. So she goes to pour herself a shamrock shake, and she took a sip. And it wasn't shamrock; it was strawberry or whatever.
Yeah. If you're not ready for it,
yeah. We've all had the experience of thinking we had the Coke and took a sip of Sprite.
Yeah. Yeah. I usually get one shamrock shake when it comes out a year. I'll get one, and that'll be my splurge for the month.
I haven't done a shake in forever. We do smoothies, but
the eggnog shakes are good too. I like eggnog a lot.
I miss those.
Yeah.
I made the mistake at the St. Johnsbury McDonald's, St. Johnsbury, Vermont. Hello, Mr. Whitehill. To get coming home for Christmas, I got the McRib and the eggnog shake.
Oh, you went way out there. I'll take Presidents for 50, Jack. I'm gonna go off the board here.
Off the board. There you go. An eggnog shake and a McRib.
McRib. I don't even think they have those anymore.
Eggnog shake again. The McRib. That was.
Yeah, I had one of those back in the day. I was like, I'm all set with that. But yeah. Anyway, ways to get a hold of us for, I forget, digitaltodice.com is our website. That's where we park all the shows over on Spreaker. You can listen right from Spreaker or on iTunes or on YouTube. Many different ways to listen to the show, but it all parks over there on digitaltodice.com. 978-751-DICE is the Dice line. Send us a text, 978-751-3423. Email digitaltodice@yahoo.com. And over on Facebook, the group is facebook.com/groups/digitaltodice. So without further ado, should we get into what we're playing?
Yes.
I'll let you lead off.
I can't believe you don't have a Washington Capitals pennant behind you.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that. I think I do. I think I do. I just have to go dig it out.
All right. What have I been playing? Well, the NFL replay has reached week 4, and having a lot of fun with that. Getting some good-sized crowds for those lunchtime games, and tomorrow's stream, which will be the 49ers and the Eagles, is the series debut of Murder, She Wrote, because it was played on September 30th, 1984.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So we're through almost through the first quarter of the year. Not a ton of surprises so far, unless you're a Redskins fan, because they're 0-3. But that's been fun. Skipped a year doing that, and so sometimes I think you gotta, for sports that aren't your favorite, you gotta rotate those in and out. This one hasn't felt a lot like work. It's been fun, and it's an era which is my peak football fandom. It all kind of has dwindled down the last 30 some odd years, but that one has been fun. But doing a one-off baseball every week on the weeks that we haven't had a triple header of football. And that's been fun, too. We did, what did I do today? I did the Cleveland Indians division clincher from 95.
Oh, wow.
One of our listeners, Tim Gillis, Tribe fan or Guardian fan or Dog fan or Cleveland fan, went to that game. It was Friday, September 8th, 1995. And it was the first game for the Orioles after Cal Ripken had broken Lou Gehrig's record.
Is that the one that they brought in Rick Vaughn to close out the 9th inning? They're bringing in the Wild Thing.
That was your thing on Facebook a couple days ago, okay? No. Jose Mesa was their closer. And so I've been asking people to submit games that they had a huge attachment to or went to, and so that was cool. And the Indians won that and clinched the pennant all over again. So pretty much that. The Red Sox replay from '77 has hit 45 games. Here's something I know. I had a game where against the Royals, where it was supposed to be Ferguson Jenkins versus Doug Bird. Now, we've talked about the 77 Red Sox in their pitching, which is pretty much non-existent. Fergie gives up 5 runs in the top of the first. This is at Fenway Park. Bird gives up 5 runs and gets tired immediately in the bottom of the first. Fergie puts on a runner. Fatigue warning. Fatigue is up. I put in Bob Stanley. Stanley gives up 4 runs. It's like I'm now 3 pitchers deep on a staff that has no staff. And so the game got canned. Like, nope, I'm done with this. We'll play it when I'm in a better mood.
Yeah.
And usually when I have that happen, and that's a whole topic to itself, I'll if the team I want to win loses the replay of the replay, I'm fine with that. But at some point, it's like, no, I'm not going to sit here and manage, bullpen management 101 substitutions, kind of, in the second inning. For me, that's not fun. I'd rather lose 13-1 and get my clock cleaned and only have to worry about one team as opposed to 9-9 after 2 innings. But the Red Sox we finally beat the Yankees. Who do we beat? I think it was Catfish Hunter. Guidry, they're not touching. I forgot how good he was in 77. They're not touching him. But yes, we are 4 games above where the real Red Sox were after 45 games, which is a good thing. And so are the Yankees. So we've gained no ground. I think they're a game or game and a half out of first. And the Red Sox have played everybody but Baltimore. Which is curious. We're now into June. So quarter of that season's done. It's been a great deal of fun. I wonder if that season ever gets reissued. The ballpark effects just makes everything so huge, because I know you don't play advanced or super advanced in Stratomatic, but for those of you who are just kind of curious, in the super advanced, you could use ballpark ratings, and then there's weather effects. So you can have good weather, average weather, or bad weather. But for a right-handed hitter at Fenway Park in 1977, it does not matter what the weather is. If you get a roll that has a ballpark home run on it, it's an automatic home run, and it's a 1 through 20. And that's one of the reasons when you play half your games there, balls are flying out. I think the Red Sox are averaging 6.4 runs per game.
Really?
Oh, my gosh. The offense on that is just incredible. But again, you and I are pitching for them. I mean, Tion's ERA is 4.5. Reggie Cleveland's got lit up his last start, so he's 5-2 with an ERA of over 6. Yeah.
Well, scoring a lot of runs is fun, though.
Where you're scoring a lot of runs, but you just kind of shake your head and go, "Wow!" So that's pretty much what I've been playing along with Gems. But yeah, so that's pretty much it, and it's fun. And the football games have been fun. If you don't catch us, we're live on twitch.tv.com or twitch.tv/retrosportsnetwork a couple days a week. And Tuesday's football game was a blowout, but we've had some good games. And it's names that everybody knows that listens to the show. So so you get Montana tomorrow beating up on Ron Jaworski.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so all sorts of fun. So that's pretty much what I've been playing. What about you?
I started a new hockey project. I don't know why. I was trying to figure out something I could do.
You told me this, and I don't know why either. But
so I ended up flicking around, and I pulled out Inside the Crease. So I like that hockey game, and I like how it keeps all the stats. But it's just too. You have to play every game, so I could never play a full season in that. But I thought I would play a full season of one team. So I pulled out 74-75, and I picked the Washington Capitals, who got 8 wins that year. And I says, can I get these guys 8 wins or more or less? I want to see what it would do. And Inside the Crease is one of those games you don't have to make a lot of decisions. It does a great job keeping stats and the whole bit. It can get a little clunky. You do have to really kind of work this game. It's not as automatic as you would think. But once you get into the groove of keeping the stats, it makes sense. It reminds me a lot of like Strat PC hockey, where it just everything's there. It's just you just got to go find it, type of thing.
Yeah, that's pretty.
You got to call up the season, and then that brings up this, and that brings up that. So it does the things a little bit different than some of the other games. But it's fine. So I said this would be a fun game to play. And the other thing too is I wanted to see how fast I could play a game if I wasn't streaming and I wasn't doing the play-by-play. If I just was kind of playing it, not trying to race through it, but just playing it. Without saying, oh, now it's, this guy with the puck, and now it's a shot on goal. What is, if I just played it and I just clicked, okay, it's a takeaway, it's a shot, it's a save, here's the puck, and just, I want to see how, because somebody said they played it in 20 minutes. I ended up playing the game. I got it between 30 and 35 minutes.
It's about right. I could do a Strat hockey by myself at about 40. And the baseball, I can do 15 to 20. Because if there's no one on base, you're just looking for the dice roll, and the computer records the results.
The Strat hockey, if I turn off the card results, I can get through that game in 20 minutes because it just says this guy has the puck, now this guy has the puck, and it doesn't tell you how. It just But I mean, that does take away from half the fun of Strat hockey is the cards.
No, but I mean, that's something else we can do. Do you want your games to take long and enjoy them that way, or do you just kind of speed along to the good points of the game? Good scoring chance, or when you have runners on base, something that you kind of have to.
Sometimes you want to just get through the game, get a final score, and other times you want to enjoy the ride. That's true.
So what is, because when you said that you were going to do that, I know for me that would get frustrating real fast, knowing that you have a team that is maybe the worst in National Hockey League history.
I think it was the worst in National Hockey. But so here's my thinking with that is one, I wanted to see how fast I could play the game. So when I played the first game in a half hour, it's okay, this is doable. An 80-game season is doable at a half-hour whack. The hour and 15, hour and 20 it was taking me to stream it is not doable. That's just too long. So I says, if I could just sit here at night, and listen to something on YouTube or the radio or whatever, and just kick my feet up, and I could bang out a couple games in an hour, and just offline and really enjoy this project. I says, this is something I think I would do because the game would keep all the stats. I like how it keeps the stats and inside the crease. I could, play it without having to make a lot of decisions aside from, pulling the goalie or something like that. But, I mean, I'm just going to let automatic lines for the most part. I might even let it choose the goalie, although the games that they win, the 8 games that they win, or won, I should say, I think I'll go to put actual goalies in net for that game. But the rest of it, I'm going to let the computer pick. I'm just kind of automatic pilot on this. And the reason why I chose this one, which is very different than a Bucks project or a Seals project, or a Scouts, is I have no connection to this team. Mm-hmm. None. Okay,
I don't develop one. You'll develop one.
I might. Okay, but I have no connection to this team. I don't care if they don't win a game at all. Okay, and that's why I'm doing this, because I know that I've played the bad teams and I get frustrated because I want them to win. And I wasn't. And that Seals project that I did, the 73-74 Seals with shootout hockey, got to be frustrating because I was pulling for them to win. And I ended up winning more games than they actually did. But boy, I tell you, it was frustrating because they were so bad. But in this particular one here, I'm almost rooting for them to lose, a lot more games because I don't have a connection to them. And so I'm just really enjoying this ride. I played 3 games offline, and then I did stream one, the game that their first game, they actually lost 2, tied the Kings, and then they beat the Blackhawks, if you can believe it. One of their wins was early in the season against the Blackhawks. So I streamed that Blackhawks game, and the Blackhawks, beat them, of course. So they're 0-4. Instead of 1-2-1, they're 0-4. So they're already
It's high in real life.
They tied the Kings early on.
Dion there yet?
I don't think
he was there by the mid-70s.
Yeah, he must have been by 74, 75. Yeah. And what was funny too is so they lost to the Rangers on opening night, as they did in real life. Game 2, they played the Minnesota North Stars. They lost 6-0. In my game, they lost 6-0.
That's always
that was creepy. Second game into the project, and I hit it exact. That was really crazy. Now I didn't have the goalies in there because I think they went with Belhume instead of Ron Lowe, and I just had Ron because I just had to pick a goalie, and they put Lowe in net.
Oh, I beat the tar out of Ron Lowe when that failed 81-82 project because that card wasn't that great. I always loved those cards playing Strat. Oh yeah, it's party time. Here's the when I did 75-76 Islanders, and I think that was before I got to you and I met. I knew Trottier. I liked his story. I knew the name Potvin. I knew Chico Resch a little bit. Again, we did not have. My mom did not, for understandable reasons. My mom must have watched a Flyers game in the mid-70s and went, "No, Ronnie, you are not watching that," and because they were just the Broad Street Bullies, and so hockey was not a sport I grew up with. In elementary school was when the Islanders won those 4 straight. So you knew those names, you knew Bossy, you knew Trottier and that, but there wasn't anything else besides that. They were just names, and maybe if you were bored on a Sunday, you'd read the hockey articles along with the baseball stuff in the paper. So I started that project and said, let's just see how far I get. By the time that maybe 15, 20 games in the project, everything started to become real. Again, no real emotional attachment to it. Trottier was playing out of his mind. And so that was fun. He had 5 points. Their opener in 75 was against the Scouts. So he had 5 points that night. There's a pretty good NHL debut for you. 5 points your opening night. You're 19 years old. And so go through, and you knew they'd win. And there was always that yes when they beat the Flyers because they could play the Flyers game and beat them. Or, they were very good at adapting, or at least in that version of Action PC, to whatever style that they needed to play to win. They weren't going to beat Montreal because that was the first of the 4 for Montreal Cups. But if they needed to be belligerent, they had the players to be belligerent against the Bostons and the Philadelphias. And if they needed just to outscore you, yeah. And so I got quite attached to that team as a point being quite attached to that team as I went through, because when I started, again, more of a curiosity than anything, to the point where I now own a Trottier jersey.
Yeah, but this is the point where there's always some sort of really enigma about the bad teams. There just is, and I'm drawn to them because there's such an anomaly. They're so different. This is the one team though that I just don't have any connection to. Of all the bad teams, I don't really have. So I can probably enjoy this one here. And that if this goes well, meaning that I get through the project and I enjoy it and I enjoy the game and whatever, I would probably do something similar, but with a really good team, like a Oilers team or a Bruins team that scored a ton of goals.
Oh, you'd have so much fun.
Yeah, so I'd like to see, because we always talked about, I'd like play a full season with one team to see if Esposito can get whatever, can Orr get 100 points, can Gretzky get 200 points, so I think that would be fun to do that with a good team at some point. But this one here I'm starting out with, and again, I don't have a connection to them yet. Maybe, like I said, maybe I will, but right now it's like when they're losing, I don't care. When they're winning, I don't care. And so we're 4 games in, they're 0-4, and I'm interested to see how it goes, but I do like how I can really kind of bang a couple games out a night.
That's cool.
And then if I want to stream one, I stream it. And, when I streamed it, I didn't even do the broadcast. I just was had a chat room open, and I was talking to people and just said, look, I'm not going to do the full broadcast. I'm just kind of playing this here, showing you how fast you can play it. And maybe I would do a full broadcast the next time because they are more fun. But
I'd be curious if you get, depending on how far you get, when they blow a game that they should win. You're 20, 25 games in.
Well, they've been in every game except for that 6-0 game. They've been in the other 3 games, and in fact, they trailed by a goal to the King. To the Kings and the Blackhawks did. They were trailing by a goal, and they got a penalty late in the game. And again, this is one of those things where I'm not ignoring the penalties. I'm just letting this ride. I really am. So if there's a penalty late, there's a penalty late. And I'm not really tied to any emotion with this at all. So I'm just letting it fly. So they've gotten late penalties that kind of screwed them, and an open net goal here or there. So, but they've been in them. They have the one blowout. They've been blown out once in 4 games, but they've been in them. So I think they should pull out a couple of these.
I'm just as a side note there. I don't know why I was looking this up. Sometime in the last year, I don't. They played against the Rangers their first game. Who they opened up against?
Yeah, it was the Rangers.
So the Washington papers aren't on newspapers.com, but the Baltimore Sun is, and so that's their hockey team as well. And so the night of their first game was the day that the Orioles were eliminated in that year's American League Championship Series.
Okay.
And so open up the Sun Sports section, and it's woe was the Orioles, and Earl Weaver did this, and blah, 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 blah. And there is 2 paragraphs. Oh yeah, by the way, the Caps lost to the Rangers. Here's the favorites tomorrow at Pimlico.
yeah, their first season, their first game ever, and that's what they get. Yeah. It's pretty bad.
So I don't know why I looked that up, but I did.
And and the other thing I thought about when I play these games is when you take a bad team like this, you wonder how can they ever win a game?
I think it's hard because everything is rated after the season.
But they did win. They only won 8, but they did win. Even the Seals, when I played that Seals project there with Shootout, I'm looking at this and their scoring range is sometimes 1-3 or 1-4 out of 100.
Right, in Shootout. Right,
and I'm like, how the hell are they even gonna score a goal, let alone win a game? But they did.
Who did they beat? Who did Washington beat?
Oh boy, they beat Chicago first. I saw that, but aside from that, I didn't get that far down the schedule.
I mean, is Kansas City in that year? Or is that the next?
Oh yeah. They must have played Kansas City. They must have probably beat Kansas City and the Seals and teams like that.
Yeah, I mean that would be there. I mean, there's if they beat the Penguins weren't very good in that era either.
Yeah.
If they beat the Flyers or something like that, stop the presses. If they took a point from Montreal.
Well, I think Kansas City beat Boston at home in one of their 2 seasons, and they stunned them.
That we sat there and
we
went
talked
through
about
papers and read that one.
Yeah, that was a shock.
It can happen.
Yeah. So I'm playing that Inside the Crease hockey from Inside Sports, the Capitals 74-75 season. Be doing more of that offline with the occasional online game. I might stream the 8 games they won just to see if I could win that same game as well. Aside from that, last Tuesday night, because I wasn't here on the show last week, but last Tuesday night I was at the rink and I reffed a couple of games, and it was just a hot night and people were yelling at me, and it just somebody got tripped at the end, and do you call a late penalty or not, and blah blah blah. So I wasn't having a good night. And I'm sitting there and just want to get the night over with, and just, I was packing some stuff up, and this guy comes walking up the stairs, and I thought he had a jigsaw puzzle, because it was like an old hockey picture on the cover of this box. And says, "Oh, what do you got, a puzzle?" He goes up to the top of the stairs and he hands it to me. He goes, "Here." I go, "What's this?" And I looked at it, and it was, what's it called? Hockey Strategy.
NHL Strategy.
NHL Strategy. Tudor games. TUDOR games. Copyright 1976. He goes, "You play these games. Here's this." I go, where did you get this? He goes, "I was at my grandmother's house. They're cleaning out her house, and they had a bunch of games, and this was one of them, and I grabbed it." And he goes, "You play these games." I opened it up. It's a cards and dice game. A cards and dice hockey game from 1976 that I've never heard of, that I didn't know existed as a kid. And I opened it up, and it was, the first thing I saw was Scouts. I was like, no way, the Kansas City Scouts are in this game. So I knew it was either 74, 75, or 75, 76. And I looked at it, and the cards themselves said 76, so I assumed that was the 75, 76 season. All 18 teams are in there. All the pieces are in there. Even the dice are in there. Everything in this game is complete, and it's in unbelievable condition. And I was like, holy cow. This is unbelievable. And I looked at the cards. I did an unboxing video on YouTube, and it looks like APA. The cards look like APA hockey cards. Now, I don't know when APA hockey started. I don't know the history of this stuff.
I don't know the specific date for that.
But this is 1976. It's an 11-66 roll on the card. The cards look like APA hockey cards. There's charts that you read the numbers on the charts. And there's two columns, though. There's like the pass skate column, and then there's a shoot column. So the cards are a little different than APA. And I don't know how many seasons this game come out with, but on eBay, I could only find the season that I had. So this might have been a one-off.
It might have, because it came with the official, and it was an NHL official game, and it was an NHLPA official game, and that
yes, it was.
Must have cost some serious money even then to carry those.
So the NHLPA was a part of this, and the NHL logos are in there. Yeah, I forget if I looked at the cards if it said like Montreal Canadiens or just Montreal. I don't remember. I'd have to go back and look at it. But boy, I tell you, I haven't figured out how to play it yet, but all the directions are there. I did notice that the board had different zones. It was like A, B, C, D, E, F zones, I think, for shooting. So, there's definitely, that'll come into play, I would imagine, depending where you're taking the shot from. So interesting to see. I'm interested to learn this game and play it to see if I like it, first of all. Do I like it better than APA, or is APA better, or Strat better, or Hockey Blast? How does it compare to all these games that I have?
I'd be very curious to see. It was either on the Facebook group or the YouTube video that someone who, I don't remember who it was, but someone who I would trust in this said at some point APA tried a pilot game and they thought this was it for hockey.
Oh, maybe.
That because it makes a lot of sense. It's a 2-column game. It's an APA format. The corners are rounded like APAs.
It's 11-66.
11-66.
It looks like the APA football card, because there's 2 columns on the football card. That's what it looks like.
Now, more people are probably more familiar with NFL strategy, which was, I'm not sure if there were teams involved in that. There were you had playbooks. And so certain thicker cards in which you had for that, and you meshed offense and defense. And so you pulled your offensive play, and your opponent pulled the defensive card.
And you laid something over the top of it. Yeah.
You laid something over it, and then you rolled the dice to see what the results would be. I think that's what it was.
I think I saw pictures of that. Yeah, I didn't have it to play it.
This is completely different from that.
Yeah. But I'm looking at this saying, where was I in 1976? I was 10 years old, and I didn't see this game anywhere. Either that, or I saw it, and I thought it was a jigsaw puzzle back then, too, because it didn't look like...
It looks like a puzzle box, doesn't it?
Yeah, it didn't look like it was a game. It didn't say, hey, here's a great hockey game. It just said NHL Strategy, and there was a picture of the guy in the Flyers with the St. Louis Blues goalie behind him, and I thought it was a puzzle, because there was a lot of puzzles coming out back then that looked like that, so... So I haven't played that yet, but interesting to see. So I guess I'm back in. I need to get back to some football. You know, I get Fast Drive football sitting here. I got 2 products. I wanted to start with that. I still got my Solitaire Pro Football from 1980 that I haven't done in a couple of months now. So I need to get back to some football here. But I'm just kind of hung up on the hockey stuff right now. It's just what I enjoy, and you know, it's fun finding it.
A gym rat too, which is nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, I'm going to the gym practically every day, trying to get my my numbers down, so to speak, all kinds of numbers down, and some are working and some are not. So I guess I just got to keep plugging away. But
keep plugging, you're doing great, guys.
It is nice because I'll get up in the morning and I'll work for a little bit, and then I'll take off because the gym's slower mid morning. So I'll go there when it's slow, and then I'll come back here by noon and finish my day. But it is nice because I just get on, you know, what I'm doing. We'll put on some YouTube stuff and listen to some people in the community or whatever I listen to. So it's kind of neat. Sometimes I'll put on music, but anyway, it is kind of relaxing just getting out of the house for a while. That's why I haven't been playing a lot, because that it cuts into a lot of my gaming time. You know, is when I'm up there.
Imagine getting a hold of your health. Jeez.
I know, at my age, right?
Priorities.
So anyway,
good for you. You're doing great.
We're trying. Thank you. So, all right. So should we get into the topic of the day?
Yeah.
Here we go. All right, so we rambled a little long there, but we weren't together last week, so we had some catching up to do, I guess.
Absolutely.
So if you lasted through that, thank you so much. Sometimes we just like to chat with each other, and hopefully that's entertaining. So substitution, mass confusion, doing substitutions in games, and pretty much every game except for golf. You know, but if you're playing baseball, football, basketball, hockey,
some of the big four,
you got some decisions to make, and a lot of times, you would recommend it, and a lot of other people recommend when I get a brand new game, is especially like a hockey game or a basketball game, is just lay down the starting lineups and don't worry about changing them. Don't substitute in. Just play the game and learn the game with those guys on the ice or on the court, and don't worry about the changes. And
you can always make it more complex later on.
Yeah,
depending on,
that's something I tell people too, is when people pick up a game, you know, like, hey, I'm going to try Apple Hockey. So my first suggestion is just lay your starting lineup down and don't worry about it changing them. Just
because chances are the first few games you're not playing a full game anyway.
Yeah, you're learning them, trying to get in the feel of the game. So it says if that's one less thing to worry about off the bat, is learn how the game plays, get the flow of it, see how it goes, and then when you've got some basics down, if you want to flip the lines or bring in different people, then do that. You know, is the best way to handle that. But again, you know, when it comes down to it, it's everyone plays it differently, because I know that there's some people, especially with the hockey and the newer seasons, they want to go a minute a shift like they do in real life, and then swap it up. Now, to me, if you're doing a minute a shift, that's 20 line changes per team per period. That's a lot of time just moving cards around. Or clicking on line change if you're playing on PC.
Yeah. This is the one, to back up a second. It's the one thing where you treat cards and dice, I think, a lot differently than you do computers, because computers have built-in fatigue, and you can also set to do automatic substitution. I know in Dave Cook's games that you can do automatic substitution for both basketball and hockey, because cards and dice don't fatigue. Mm-hmm. You know, you could if you want to leave out Gretzky to play 60 minutes, he doesn't care. You know, just don't spill any Diet Coke on it.
The only time a card will fatigue is, I would think, in baseball or football. In baseball, the pitcher, if you know, so many innings or so many runs, that card technically is fatigued.
The point being that all cards and dice games try to get in some artificial element for fatigue. And you're right, baseball, it's innings pitched, runs allowed, something along. Every game does it differently, and grades change, or point of weakness. So in Stratomatic, when a pitcher fatigues, you roll like a 4/7 on a pitcher's card. It would be strikeout with a dot. Now, if he's not fatigued, that's a strikeout. But once he's fatigued, it's a single, and the runners move up 2 bases. You don't want that to happen. In football, injuries kind of take care of that.
So many carries or so many catches.
So many carries. I mean, like I said, on the computer games, you can be a lot more precise with that. basketball and hockey, again, the computer games do a great job in managing minutes, in-game injuries, and such, and so you don't really have to worry about that. It's different things for different games. I don't do fatigue every minute for a hockey game. I know that my settings for Stratomatic are for the forwards, it's every 5 cards, and for the defensemen, it's every 7 cards. And in the end, it comes out right. But again, I think for cards and dice replay, how precise do you want it to be? Yeah. Do you want your fourth? It somehow works out well. And you don't have to worry about changing every time that you flip a card.
Yeah, I think with Strat basketball, they had like numbers of how many minutes each guy would play. And so when you're flipping the cards in the game, which is basically the timing element, you would, I played, so many minutes. Now I got to take this guy out. And I forget if it's how many minutes in a row or how many minutes in the game, but you would have to manually do that.
And a half.
Was it? Yeah.
Their Strat's fatigue resets at the half for that.
But even in the when I play Appa Hockey, I tend to go. I think I set it up. What is it? 4 minutes.
I go. Appa has 30-second segments.
Yeah, so I go every 4 minutes for a line change with Appa Hockey. And again, if that's not realistic, but what I figure is that instead of going every minute or two with a line change, which would be more like a real hockey game, but that's a lot of time spent flipping cards around. Whereas if I go every 4 minutes and then do the line changes, at the end of the period, the numbers work out the same.
Yes.
So it depends what you want. Are you care about just the numbers working out? So if I leave my top line out for 4 minutes straight, and then my second line comes up for 4 minutes, at the end of the period, they're each going to get their 8 or 10 minutes or whatever it is that they would normally get, except I'm just not changing every minute or two to get them those minutes. So I think in the end it works out. It's not quite as realistic if you were playing the game. But again, the numbers work out. So I've seen people do it different ways, and some people, want to do that realistic feel. And I get that because it is really realistic. Okay, we played a minute, we switched the lines. Myself, it's like, I have a hard time figuring out, okay, when do I want to do this? Let me just go 4 minutes. That way, at the end of the period, and the end of the game, it all comes out in the wash. And the other thing is with especially with hockey and basketball is the matchups. Is I tend to just swap lines together, whether I'm playing hockey or basketball. So it's going to be
wholesale. Yep.
Top line, second line, third line. You get it. And in basketball, too, when I start swapping up, I swap everybody together. So it's your best against the best, and then it's the second against the second. But you do miss out on the different matchups. You do miss out on the line 1 versus the line 3 in hockey. You do miss out against the line 2 against the line 4. And there's really no good way to do that except if you were to do a lot more line changes in the game. And the same with basketball. Do you want to keep, having guys come in and come out of the lineup, which I guess is part of the fun of the game, but it also creates a lot more work and extends the length of the game. So for me, I want the game to flow. And I still haven't figured out the ideal scenario, especially playing like Appa and Strat, like when I want to change up, Yeah,
and I also think the other factor is not everyone is going to be a hardcore fan of every sport that they play, and so you don't want to pigeonhole people into doing too much work. Which again, switching out in a cards and dice game, switching out lines every two ticks of the clock, that's a lot of work. And if you are a casual hockey fan, if you're just sitting there wanting to make sure that you play the Lightning or whatever, that's not going to be a lot of fun. You don't want that to be. You want to take as much work out of it as you can. Dave, not being a great big baseball fan, when is it time to pull the pitcher?
Well, that's the thing. The thing about the basketball, especially with the cards and dice, is you got this pitcher in there, and he's getting kind of tired or whatever, but the reliever is not nearly as good as this guy here. So it's almost, I played a game. I want to say it was a Strat game. I want to say it was Strat Basic Baseball, and it was Nolan Ryan against somebody else, and the game was like 1-1, and I went 12 innings, and Nolan Ryan was not tired because none of the criteria was met. And so I had him pitching in the 12th inning. And the other guy went 11 innings, and I don't even think he reached fatigue, but I just took him out just to shake things up because I was like, these two guys had gone 11 innings head-to-head, which is probably never going to happen. So, again...
It happened today, but it might have happened back then.
Yeah, so I'm thinking if this guy's got awesome numbers and the other guy's got awesome numbers and they've given up 1 run each and only 3 hits through 11 innings... I mean, they got to be tired in real life. Yeah, and you would think that the common sense would say, no, don't play them in the 12th. But according to the game rules, they're as fresh as a daisy.
And the other thing is, too, if you are doing a season replay where you got to worry about Ryan comes back in 3 days and he's going to face a first-place team, I got to be thinking about that. I don't want to hurt him, depending because...
But some baseball games do that well. I think on deck baseball and maybe payoff pitch they factor in.
I know on deck baseball has a chart.
So depending how you did in that game, there's a fatigue level for your guy going forward, which is really really hardcore, which is really kind of cool.
Strat spells it out. If you are, because they rate pitchers for starter or reliever. And so even in the basic, it says starter 6. So he won't hit his point of weakness unless he gives up 5 earned runs until he's pitched 6 innings. And then the new criteria, blah, 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 blah. If he has an asterisk next to that 6 as a starter or 7 or 8 or whatever it is, then he is capable, according to strat rules, of going on 3 days rest. If not, the rule of thumb is every 5th day, 4 days rest.
Okay, so it's kind of built into that. Okay.
So it's somewhat built in for that. APA Basic, I don't think, does any delineation for that. I know in the master game, I think they break it down for starter grade and reliever grade and all that. But your game, your way, essentially. And so for a casual fan like you, you're not worried about what's going to happen in 3 days. Mm-hmm. You're worried about what's going on now. You're not bringing Ryan back to pitch all 162 games. Mm-hmm. Is it realistic? It depends on the situation. I know of a game where Warren Spahn and Juan Marichal in an 18-inning game, they both went 16 innings. Of course, it was in the mid-60s. I mean, you wouldn't do that today, but so it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
But again, your game, your way. And, when do you pinch hit and all that? My rule of thumb for starting pitchers in a card and dice game, for strat basic, or for the strat I'm doing with the Red Sox, I pitch the other team starter until they hit their point of weakness or they're getting absolutely shellacked. But general rule of thumb in a card and dice game, I'm leaving my starter in for unless they give up 5 earned runs, 10 base runners, or 27 batters. I'm not even thinking about it until they hit one of those criteria because I don't want – and then bullpen, I don't want them to go through the lineup more than once. But again, I tend to do longer replay projects with that, and so you try to think of that. For casual, as long as you go with point of weakness, who cares? Really, you're not sitting there going that. I mean, obviously, you don't want, if you know that somebody has the super batting card and you look at the card and he had 8 at-bats, I don't want him playing 162 games. But, on a one-off, what the heck?
Yeah, and that's the other thing, too, is you got some guys that only played a handful of games. And, when do you bring them in? And which games you put them in? And, what if you got a favorite player that only played a few, like Bobby Orr in 75. I mean, do I have him play the whole season? Do I take him out? I mean, when do I substitute?
He played, 9 games?
It was something like that, 9 or 10, yeah.
In that 75-76 Islander replay I did on Action PC, he had an absurd amount of assists. He had like 20 points in those first 9 games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of falls more into injury. I get that too, but I mean,
right. But again, still... do you do those 9 games right off the traditionally, or do you? The Canadians are in town. I want to win. Somehow.
Yep. Does he play the 9 games at the beginning, or do you spread them out during the year? Yep. No, exactly right. Yeah. I mean, the numbers will come out the same, maybe, but I mean, So I just was thinking that the other day when I was playing some of these. It's like, boy, the substitution, it's a big deal because you need to bring in other players. You need to, bring in, like running backs don't play every play in football and basketball. Basketball is the one I'm most confused about because I'm not a big basketball guy, and I have a hard time figuring out like when to sub in like that. But Strat does a good job of like, okay, you need to this, so you got to keep track of this and that and the other thing, and when this guy can come back in, and so it's not quite as difficult as hockey. But I'm not as familiar with basketball.
Now, my rule of thumb for basketball pretty much is the same for all games. If a starter commits a foul, I sit him till the next 3 minutes come up because most players are rated on minutes per half or minutes per game, and you obviously want your best players not to be fatigued with 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
Right.
So that's just an easy way to you committed a foul. I'm going to sit you to the next 3 minute mark, and then I'll put you back in or whatever. Make sure that I get my bench players in, and that no one gets fatigued, and especially if you get into foul trouble early. Action PC has done a great job in doing in-game injuries. So you might be forced to be without a Larry Bird for 15, 20 minutes in the first half. He can play all the second half. But so to make sure that, A, my players don't get into foul trouble, and B, they don't get tired.
Yeah.
And so now if he's got plenty of minutes left, if there's 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter and he picks up his third foul, I'm not yanking him then. He's staying in the game. But just to make sure, I want to make sure that they have the minutes at the end of the game in case I need him after the 20 points. Well, I don't care, but
now as far as football games, I really do like what the major PC football games do is they have that fatigue factor. I know that Action PC does. They have a fatigue factor. The Pro Strategy Football?
Pro Strategy Football has it to some degree.
Yeah, because I know sometimes it'll say that
has a unique.
Second and 10 does it too. Yeah, because I like that in the Pro Strategy Football where you line up and the running backs like this guy's fatigued or tired, and you can bring in the backup for a couple of plays and let the guy rest. I think that's really, really good because it alerts you to what's going on. And the second and 10, I tend to overthink that so bad. Like I'll play a couple of plays and I'm like, oh, I better sit this guy so he doesn't get tired. It's like it's only 3 plays into the game, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, don't burn him out. Don't burn him out.
My huge beef with second and 10 as an engine is they try to mandate 10 plays of rest. And my thought is, if I make sure that everyone has a chance to get their carries and catches, that's what they were designed to do. I shut off the mandatory rest. Just because the card is laid out on the table doesn't mean that Tony Dorsett was in on the play. They get time off when the other team has the ball and all that. And again, if you got a team with one guy with 20 carries and the next 3 guys have maybe 15 carries between them there, you just try to balance it out. I try to, you're playing against yourself regardless of which, and as long as you're fair. Because if you overuse the players in second and 10, usage penalties start to come in.
Yeah.
And so
I always panic early. I panic in that game. I'm like, okay, the receiver's sitting, the running back sitting, and the tight end sitting, and then I'll bring them back in. And I tend to do it way too early, but I get nervous about I'm going to overuse these guys, Yeah,
so I just somehow you always think that you don't have enough plays for these guys, especially let's say you get a hot quarterback and the completions are gone. What do we do?
Yeah.
They've worked on that a couple times, but in Action PC, I shut off in-game penalties for that because you don't know. You're going to go to whatever works. You're only playing once a week anyway. And so if someone gets 12 catches one week, that's what they get. That's who was open. What they do have, though, is season fatigue. So although there's no in-game penalties, if a player is overused, they're not going to be fully fresh the next game. I had that the other day with the Colts and the Dolphins. Curtis Dickey had like 41 carries the first 3 games of the season. When he started, he was at 85%. So he wasn't at a full 100%. So I had to juggle my lineups. He got carries, he got some usage, but he couldn't be the primary back because he'd have been too fatigued. He'd they'll automatically substitute in that game if it gets under 80%. So he also had a pretty bad game, like 5 carries for -3 yards. That's not going to get it done. So he can rest up. But yes, and again, the computer is very good at making you think about what you want to do. But I think for a lot of these, especially the cards and dice games, you really are on the honor system when it comes to things like that. And so as long as you play it fair for both teams, again, as someone who really doesn't like the Detroit Pistons, if I'm playing the Celtics and the Pistons, yeah, I want Lambeer to fall out. I want him out of there as Isaiah Payne's in the Tushies. I want them gone. But you play it the same way. If they commit the foul, they go to the bench, they sit for a couple minutes, because again, if you're really playing these games, you really don't want Team A's starters against Team B's scrubs, because you've burned everyone trying to do that. Yeah. So
there's some games too that kind of have the substitution kind of built in. And I'm thinking more like the solitaire pro football and fast action football, whereas
they're both brilliantly designed games.
Yeah, so both of those games is that you actually roll the dice or flip a card, and that tells you who the receiver is or who the running back is. And if you can call your receivers and running back if you like. You have that option. But if you want to play fully automatic, you flip the card, roll the dice, and so you're gonna. So that's how that spreads it out. Again, the top guy gets the bulk of the number. Then the second guy gets a second, and then the third guy gets a little bit of percentage of getting the ball. But that's how they spread the ball around in that game, on both of those games, and that works out rather nice. Whereas you don't have to think about it. Say, flip the card, okay, it's Dorsett. The next card, okay, it's going to be Newhouse. Okay, and then Ron Springs is carrying here. For the Cowboys, and so that's, you don't even have to worry about it with there. So the substitutions are built in. So that's kind of neat sometimes too. And in shootout hockey, I'll include shootout hockey in that. Is that you don't substitute in that game at all? Is that it determines
the result off the line change?
Yeah, it's like, okay, who gets the penalty, who gets the scoring attempt, and it's all on a percentage basis. And so you never have to worry about substituting lines in that game either. And sometimes I enjoy that. Sometimes I enjoy to play a game and I don't have to worry about the substitutions. I think it really comes down to like what you're in the mood for in that particular moment for as far as the gameplay goes.
Absolutely.
Even when I play inside the crease, it asks you sometimes, do you want 3 lines or 4 lines? And sometimes I just say 3 lines because it's simple. And even in APA, when I put APA cards on the table, a lot of times I go 3 lines. I do have a way of playing 4 lines, but it requires more thought because I only have 3 defensive lines. Or if you want to play 5D instead of 6D in hockey, it's difficult because you get 5D, you divide that by 2, it's not an even number. So someone's going to be staying and someone's going to be double shifting.
That your top defenseman's going to get a half hour a game anyway.
Yeah. So that's something where, if you want to put in the time to the substitutions, no matter what game you're playing, you can get it to work out pretty good, pretty accurate as far as time played. And I know a lot of games, they put the time played right on the cards too. So they'll say, here's how many minutes.
And that makes a difference too, because Danny Ainge is a good example of that. He rarely played more than 30 minutes a game.
Yeah.
He's out there, at crunch time because he's who you want out there. But yes, and it just kind of gives you the feel of a coach. Like, oh, no, they didn't play up. It's not LeBron. He's not, or Little Chamberlain. He's not out there 48 minutes a game. He's out there 28 to 30. And again, no one is going to be checking your work. This isn't the homework assignment. Play the 77, 78 season and get it as right as you can. It's all about enjoying it. And, obviously, whatever your favorite sport is the one that you're going to spend more time with, making sure that it's right, that you're playing it upfront and honest, because you can't possibly know everything about every team in every sport.
But I think what it really comes down to, again, is how much detail do you want in your game? How much time do you want to spend on that detail? And how important is it to you? Are you okay? Well, I'm just, some people say, I'm going to let the whole line play the whole first quarter or first period or first half. and then I'll bring in some guys, and later on in the game, it all works out in the end. So I mean, there's so many different ways you can do it, and to get the numbers to work out, or you can, like I say, just play one line the entire game if you want to, the whole bit, and never substitute. It's your game, you do it your way. But that's one thing that's always kind of, I don't want to say stumped me, but it's something that I've never really worked out too well, is my substitutions in games, because it does require thought, it does require time, and that sometimes that time takes away from the game, but sometimes it adds to the game. And some people love to substitute because it just feels more like a real game to them, than leaving somebody out there for a long time just to get minutes in.
Yeah, absolutely. And the computer games, I think, do a very good job of managing things behind the scenes. So, A, you have to sub, and B, the subbing is more realistic. But because of the randomness factor you just don't know. You just don't know. Like for basketball, I think is the toughest, because
you're not swapping all five guys in basketball. It's like one here, one there.
You do that in some things, but that's not realistic to do. Hockey, again, it's my main thing is treat both teams the same way. Obviously, more often than not, if you're doing something as casual or for yourself, you have a favorite. You have a team that you want to win, regardless of the sport. But if you just treat both teams the same, you got it. And again, no one is really going to say, "Oh, look, I did this," and Danny Ainge played 3,200 minutes. He should have only played 2,400. You are bad. It's like, but that's what I wanted to enjoy. So that's the best piece of advice. Figure out what works for you. And for me, that evolves over time. And like you said, it depends on my mood on that particular day. When I play solitaire pro football, if I think I'm using one player too much, I'll open up the stats and look. So if somebody has 22 carries, I try not to give them more than 11 in the first half. Fourth quarter, all bets are off. You're trying to.
I like how that game gives you the running back totals. Like, here's how many carries he's going to go before you have to go to somebody else. So you can give it to this guy 15 times in a row if you want, but then he can't carry it until the other guys get their 5, 3, and 2 in or something like that.
Right. And that makes a lot of sense. And the fatigue built into Action PC. When it's time to change the lines when everyone's got asterisks there. Yeah. You just go ahead to do it, because it does degrade the performance. You can also have the computer do all that for you too. Yeah. It's just, I think overall it gives a better game experience. But again, it's kind of like making your favorite stew. Everyone puts different seasonings in, or different ingredients. No one makes the same chili, We talk about Pizza Butcher. No one makes the same chili. I might put in ground turkey. You might put in steak. There's no wrong way, but everyone seasons it differently, and we all adjust to what we want and to the different engines. So there is no wrong answer, but like I said, as long as you treat both teams the same, then to me, it really doesn't matter.
So we want to hear from you. Let's get your feedback on this. When it comes to substitutions in your game, whether it's cards and dice or PC, how do you handle it? What do you do? What is your way to do it? Again, there's no wrong way to do it, but we'd like to know, do you try to get as accurate as possible when, like, switching often, or are you okay at the end of the game as long as the numbers work out? I mean, there's many different ways to do it. Do you play the fringe players a lot? The guys that only played a handful of games. Do you play them a lot? I mean, and when pitchers in baseball, how do you kind of handle that? That's the big thing too, is pitchers in baseball. When do you pull them out? When is realistic, and when is it? Are you kind of gaming the game when your starting pitcher is still the best guy to go to? So if you go to the bullpen, you're going to get a worse guy. And that's so I know I'm inclined to leave the starter in, even though he's getting beat up, because I'm going to bring in a guy that's even worse than this guy here. So, and then we could bring Al, Red Sox fan, on and talk about when to pull field goal kickers. That could be a
wow.
That could be a whole show on field goal kickers. Poor Al. We'll end it on that note. Poor Al.
He is destined for John Smith and Uwe von Schamann forever.
And you think I play the bad teams? Let me tell you, he doesn't play a bad team, but it turns into a bad team.
Yeah.
Let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
All right, by the numbers. This has been episode 106 of the Digital to Dice podcast, and we talked about substituting in your game. Good topic on that. Good talk on that, I should say, between myself and Ron. We want to know, again, how do you do it here? Let's see, ways to get a hold of us. digitaltodice.com is the website. 978-751-DICE is the dice line. Send us a text. digitaltodice@yahoo.com, and over on Facebook, facebook.com/group/digital to dice. And boy, I forget what we're up to now, but that group is growing and growing and growing.
830 something.
Yeah, we got some good discussions, good products being posted over there as well, so it's nice to see some people posting over there. Anyway, so I'm Dave.
I'm Ron.
Talk to everybody later.
Bye-bye.